Could you take my heart away? Girl, give it back to me. Girl, give it back to me. Okay. Woo. Here we go. I'm leaving my cottagecore life with this little dress, and I'm ready to talk about all the books that I read in winter. I chose to do this seasonally because I don't really like to do TBRs and wrap-ups, but sometimes I like to talk about books, and I like to talk about like a lot of books in just one video so that I can just like get it done. So yeah, let's start with the Cat and Run series by Abigail Rue and Madeleine Urban. This is a mildly thrillery series with some mystery aspects and a male-male romance. I really like stories where the romance isn't like the focus of the story, but there is one. So the story talks about two FBI agents that are paired up together, and they really don't like each other. They have very troubled past, the both of them, very different kind of psychological trauma for the both of them. One was in, I think, a Marine, and the other one has a very troubled past with his wife that has passed away. And they have to solve the murder mystery of this serial killer that is going around killing people. At least for the first book, because not all the books in the series talk about a murder mystery. Sometimes it's like smuggling tigers. This series is kind of crazy. It's kind of cheesy. I loved it though. I read 6 books in like the span of 15 days, which is great. It's very much enemies to kind of hookups, friends with benefits to then lovers. They really took their time to say I love you and stuff like that, to work through their psychological trauma, which I really appreciated, because it talks about their mental health of 2 FBI agents. That's really cool. So yeah, overall I gave this series 4 out of 5 stars. I read the first 6 books because yeah, I had fun, but the mystery aspect was kind of lacking for me. Then I read Ramo by Silvia Vanni, which is a very beautiful graphic novel from an Italian author, so supporting local authors, which has like very beautiful pastel colors. And this story talks about a boy who dies and his ghost lingers near the people that last like interacted with him, and there is a mystery because he is dead, but apparently he died saving somebody else, and there was this girl that he was so infatuated with that is the girlfriend of the boy that had to die, kind of, and he feels really responsible, and he wants to do something, but he's a ghost, so what can he do? This was very delicate, very touching at moments, especially at the end, and I really appreciate the artwork. I will like, very simple but very cute. So I give this 4 out of 5 stars. This is a book that is very special to me. I took a vacation before all this situation to the UK, to London with my mom. We planned it, paid it all by ourselves, and we went to the Moomin shop in Camden Town, and I bought The Moomins and the Great Flood by Tove Jansson. Tove Jansson created this universe where these little creatures called the Moomins like travel around, and I think this is the first book that she published, where the Moomins, Moomin Mama, that is this one, and Moomin Troll, they have to find Moomin Papa before and after then the Great Flood arrives, and at the end they find their forever home in Moomin Valley. This is a book, so it's written, but it has beautiful illustration. This is Moomin Mama. This is so cute. It has like some of the goofiest illustration, like Moomin Mama and Moomin Troll. And there is a whole, like, she did comic strips for the Moomins. There is a whole TV shows, like multiple TV shows from the 70s, the 90s, and now another one that is done in CGI, which is still great. This world, it's one of mine and my mom's favorites. I love the Moomin so much. There is so much like undertones to this. You can read it as a children's story or as not this one in particular, but her comic strips, like political and economical satire, which is so great. This is very like cynical of the society that Tove Jansson grew up with, but it's also very beautiful. It talks about friendship, so I recommend this to everyone. Please pick up the Moomins. So yeah, 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Il cacciatore di fulmini by Miki Monticelli, which means lightning hunter. I believe this is the translation. Which is an Italian book again, and it's the sequel to a middle grade book that I read back when I was in middle school, I think, and I loved. Miki Monticelli is one of my favorite authors, and this one is the sequel of Il mago dei venti? Lo stregone dei venti, yeah. So the wind's wizard. The story talks about this girl that finds out that she can make her drawings come to life, and she gets transported into this beautiful magical world where there are wizards and witches, and she encounters this wizard that can control wind and all sorts of wacky characters, like a talking skeleton and a bug that can talk. So yeah, it's super fun. I love Miki Monticelli's writing because she gets it. Middle grade books sometimes can feel a little dry, but she writes her story full of love and passion and friendship, and you can see that. So really appreciated that. The sequel was even better, so 5 out of 5 stars. Loved it. Then I read a manga series called Asa to Mitya, so Asa and Mitya, by, I have to read it, Billy Balibali. Of course, this is like a pen name. This story, there are 2 volumes. This story runs on the verge of being a story about obsessive love, but it like kind of keeps itself on the side of like really strong passionate love. It talks about 2 high school kids that really feel isolated. They, one of them is Japanese, the other one is Russian Japanese, and it's always like seen as this outsider, not really Japanese, but not really Russian. So there is a struggle with his identity, and they both feel very, very alone, very, very little in themselves, and they resort to sometimes violence, like beating up with gangs to feel alive, and they see hurting in these fights, getting hurt as a sign of them being alive. But then they found each other, and there is like this group of friends that is like a found family, and they grow to love each other, and in this love they find solace in their solitude, which was very beautiful. I really recommend these 2 mangas if you are not like sensitive to very explicit sex scenes. So yeah, 5 stars to both volumes. Then I read Called on the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater, one of my most anticipated books ever. I love the Raven Cycle very, very much. It's a very near and dear to my heart series. Called on the Hawk kind of let me down, and at the same time was everything I expected, because I had lower expectation from the Raven Cycle, of course. Ronan is one of my favorite characters from the series. The other characters, the new ones that are introduced in this book, I didn't really care about, aside from the seer, Percival, and his story was so sad. I really liked him as a character. I understood him. The other ones, the girls, the other dreamers, didn't really care about. The fairy market aspect of the story, love that. That was so interesting. The only thing, my only gripe, is the fact that in the Raven cycle, there is this theme of this really strong friendship between all these characters, like Ronan, Gansi, Blue, and Adam, and Noah. Poor Noah, he's my favorite character, aside from Ronan. But and in Call Down the Hawk, they're they're kind of present in the story, but not really. Like, it's as almost if they all left Ronan alone. And I get why they had to be kind of written out of the story for Ronan to move forward with this Dreamers trilogy. I think it's a trilogy, well, the Dreamers series. But I really wanted that friendship to be incorporated back. So we'll see in the next books. So I gave it, I think 4 stars, but it's more like a 3.5. Then I read Heartstopper Volume 1, 2, 3. This is like a hug from your best friend in time of need. This story talks about 2 boys in high school. One of is a openly gay boy, but only because he was outed, and the other one, he is one of the star of the football team, and they fall in love. And it's so cute. They are both so cute. Also, bi representation. I am bi. Yes! I love this series so much. Also, I think there are a bunch of kind of trigger warnings that Alice Oseman has for the story, like I think eating disorder and bullying, and I think suicidal thoughts or mention of suicidal thoughts. But the series is very cheerful, and I can't wait for volume 4. I cannot wait. 5 stars to all 3 volumes. Yes! Then I read Golden Sparkle by Suzumaru Minta. And fun fact, I discovered that the Japanese characters that form the title, they translate to Golden Sparkle. So, Golden Sparkle, it's the same. Which made me laugh so hard. This, again, if you don't mind, graphic depiction of sex. This is a kind of funny story about 2 high school boys again. One is very, very naive about sex and sexual stuff, and the other one is like, oh, do you want me to teach you? So yeah, it's kind of a silly story, but a very heartwarming one, where they take their time to explore sexuality and what it means to be in a relationship where there is sex involved. So yeah, kind of like a cute manga volume. I gave it 5 stars because it was so wholesome, and I read it in a time where I really needed that. So yeah, 5 stars. Then I read another Asiman book, Enigma Variations. This is kind of like a collection of short stories that are all tied together because they are all about a main character. These are all the loves that this main character had in his life, beginning with his very first crush when he was really, really young on, I think, the cabinet maker that his parents had, to his more adult years where he falls in love with a tennis player, and then one of his ex-college mates. So it's a mix of both men and women, and I really, really loved these stories up to, I think, the 2/3 of the book. So up when he describes his romance, his really, really intense romance with this tennis player that he's too shy to talk to. And then when he talks about the rekindle romance, that is the final one, that is, he calls, I think, star love or star-crossed lovers, with he and I think 2 separate women, I got bored. those were very short and felt like an afterthought. And I didn't really appreciate that relationship because it felt kind of dry and flat. Uh, the first relationship when he was very young, and then when he's an adult and he falls for this tennis player, they felt so passionate, and then again about desire and written so beautifully, and then it kind of went. So yeah, I give it 4 stars, but more like a 3.5. Then I read another controversial series. I read the entirety of the Foxhole Court All for the Game series. Yeah, by Nora Sakavitz. This is a reread for me. I don't know what to say because I know these books are problematic. I know the mental health rap is atrocious. The stuff that goes down in these books is ridiculous. The talk about mafia and gangs and the Yakuza is completely preposterous. But I love that. I fell in love with the characters. I would fight anyone for Neil, I'm fine. Mr. I'm fine. I love the relationship that form with the characters and the coach. I love the sport. They made a sport, XC. I love everything about this story, even though it's problematic, and I can acknowledge that it is, but it's like one of those guilty pleasures book that is kind of like a drug that you say, oh my god, this is awful, but I love it and I want to continue. So yeah, the first book was a 4 stars and the last 2 were 5 stars. Then I read Henshin by Ken Nimura. He is the same authors of I Kill Giants, another graphic novel. This is a collection of short, like illustrated stories. I Kill Giants, I think it has a movie adaptation that I haven't watched, but I want to. Yeah, this is a collection of short stories, some autobiographical, like the author thinking about his new stories and finding out that they're all like already in other books. Okay, sorry, I had to put up my hair because it was distracting. Some of these stories, as I said, are autobiographical. Some of these stories are like monsters and magical happenings and killings. So yeah, it was very fun. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I love the art style. There was one story that really moved me, that was really sad. So yeah, the art style is kind of goofy, kind of very stylized. I love that. Then I read a bunch of books for the Animal Crossing's readathon, so I'm going to just mention them, and you can watch my vlog if you want some like more in-depth thoughts. First I read Become You by Ichigo Takano, or Takano Ichigo, the same author as Orange. Then I read Ghost of the Shadow Market by Cassandra Clare and a bunch of other authors. Then I read Umami by Laia Eufresa. I read an Italian book. This is Ci vediamo domani se non piove by Joanne Bonney. So I'll see you tomorrow if it doesn't rain. Then I read Snot Girl Volume 1 by Brian Lee O'Malley and Leslie Hung. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that name right. And then I read the audiobook for A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison. So yeah, if you want more thoughts, you can go watch my vlog. Then I read some more books. I read The Institute by Stephen King. And apparently I have a thing for Stephen King that I lose the covers for his book. I read this book and I was really underwhelmed. This book talks about some kids that apparently have some ESP powers, so like telekinetic or mind reading powers, and they get like kidnapped. Their families are killed and they get taken to this institute, the name Institute, to do some very harsh and cruel experiments in them. and there is a big mystery to why they're doing this. And the main character is a very intelligent kid, and he gets taken to the institute, and then he managed to escape, and they start a kind of rebellion to destroy all the institutes in the world. So yeah, the writing was very dry, which apparently is Stephen King's style, which I didn't really mind at the beginning, but then as I went on, it was more like, give me some feeling, please. And the story kind of dragged. It wasn't horror. They pitched this as a horror, and yes, there are some horrible things that they do to the kids, but it's not a horror. It wasn't scary at all. It was kind of like more like a thrilling sci-fi supernatural. And the end wasn't as satisfying as I wanted to be, so yeah, this was 2.5, 3 stars. The last book, kind of, that I read this winter is Heartstopper Become Human by Alice Oseman. This is the same characters as Heartstopper, transported in the universe of Detroit Become Human, which is a video game for the PS4 that I adore. Connor, as I said in my vlogs, is a cinema role, and I love him to death. Must protect, yes. So I love that is like an alternate universe comics that Alice Oseman wrote and illustrated, and I love that. 5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, those are all the books that I read in winter. This is kind of, I have like 30 minutes of me talking, which I'm sure everybody's sick of it, me included. So I will see you in my next video. I don't have an outro nor an intro, I think. So bye!